we're in first class, but you're only worthy to be seated in economy. Don't waste my son's money on luxuries." His mom sneered with a mocking laugh. I was stunned into silence by the casual cruelty of her words. "All right," I replied calmly, but deep inside, I felt something snap. This was supposed to be our honeymoon, a special anniversary I had meticulously planned. But somehow, it had turned into a family vacation with his mother and sister flying first class while I was relegated to economy. It was as if my presence didn't matter at all. Why had I endured this for so long? I glanced at his mother with a cold stare, a new resolve beginning to grow within me. My name is Emily. I grew up in a small rural town, leading what could only be described as an ordinary life. After graduating from college and landing a job in my hometown, I couldn't shake my dream of living in the city. Eventually, I took a leap and accepted a job in New York. Life in New York was overwhelming at first, but slowly, I began to enjoy it. I adjusted to the city's fast pace and crowds, finding fulfillment in both my work and personal life. One day, I met Chris at a corporate exhibition. "Thank you for stopping by. Your presentation was so interesting. It just grabbed my attention. I couldn't help but stay and listen." His words made me smile instantly. I had pulled an all-nighter preparing those materials, and it felt rewarding to see my efforts appreciated. The materials were great, but it was the way you explained things that really drew me in. "Could I get your contact info? Maybe we could talk more over dinner." "Yes, I'd love to." That was how we exchanged contact information and eventually started going on dates. Spending time with Chris felt so natural, and his kindness made me start imagining a future with him. After dating for several years, we got married. We moved into a suburban home near Chris's parents. After our marriage, family dinners at his parents' house became more frequent, and my relationship with his mom and sister grew closer. "Emily, it's so nice to have you around. I love how our family is growing." Exactly. It's so lively now. It's like I finally got the sister I've always wanted. We're going to have so much fun together. Their warm smiles and friendly words put me at ease, even though I felt a little nervous. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be part of this family. Thanks for being so welcoming to Emily, Mom, Sam. I knew that you guys would get along with each other right away. Let's keep supporting each other as a family. Being surrounded by his family gave me a sense of belonging, as if I were truly part of them. But after some time, my role within the family began to change, and it started to seem as if I was expected to take on more responsibilities. At first, it was small favors from Mary and Samantha, helping with errands or tasks. I welcomed these requests, thinking it was a good way to get more involved with the family. "Emily, could you come shopping with me? Can I borrow your car this weekend?" "Of course, no problem." However, these requests gradually became more frequent, and it soon felt like it was expected of me to always be available. "Emily, I need your help again." Mary's words started to weigh on me, and I could feel the exhaustion building in my heart. One day, after yet another request from Mary, I decided to open up to Chris about how I was feeling. "Lately, your mom and Samantha have been relying on me for personal favors, which I don't mind, but it's starting to become much too frequent that it's starting to wear me out. That just means they trust you. It's normal. They're family. But I don't even get my weekends to myself anymore. I have work too, and it's just a lot to handle. Is it so wrong to want to relax on my days off?" I said it with a hint of frustration, and Chris frowned in response. You're being selfish. Is helping out your family really such a problem? Are you implying that it's becoming a burden on you? It's not that I mind helping, but aren't you family too, Chris? Shouldn't we share these responsibilities? Chris's cold response made the growing gap between us even wider. I'm busy with work. That single statement only made my frustrations grow. I have a job too, Chris. I'm not just sitting around doing nothing. Fine, I'll talk to Mom and Sam about it sometime. His casual tone made it clear he wasn't really going to address the issue. If only to prove my point, the requests from Mary and Samantha didn't stop. Emily, could you handle all the preparations for our tea party this weekend? Sure, no problem. I'll take care of it. Mary's sharp gaze made me feel like she could see through my lack of enthusiasm. Oh? You don't sound very excited. Are you unwilling to help? Not at all. You're always such a help, and I appreciate all your hard work. But as my daughter-in-law, this is all part of your role, isn't it? As the daughter-in-law. Those words hit me like a weight on my chest. I smiled and agreed, outwardly, but inside I felt something snap once again. One evening, just as I finished cleaning up dinner, Mary suddenly spoke up. I'm having friends over tonight. Emily, can you prepare some food and host them for me? Wait, tonight? Right now? Yes, is that a problem? Well, I was planning to do the shopping tomorrow, so the fridge is empty right now. If there's no food, then figure it out with what you have. Haven't you been a homemaker long enough to manage? There must be something that you can come up with. Her words left me stunned, but I had no choice but to comply. All right, I'll handle it. Whenever Mary's friends visited, it became my responsibility to cook, serve drinks, and clean up afterward. In front of her friends, Mary never acknowledged my efforts, acting as if it was simply my duty. Then came our wedding anniversary, a day I had been eagerly anticipating. I had made a reservation months in advance for a special dinner. I had been looking forward to a quiet, intimate evening with Chris. But that afternoon, a phone call from Mary changed everything. Emily, we're having hot pot tonight. Stop by the house after work. But tonight is our wedding anniversary. We have a dinner reservation. You can have dinner with Chris anytime. Come over now. Aren't you on your way out of the office soon? Her words felt like a rejection of everything I had planned, leaving me deeply saddened and disappointed. I immediately called Chris, but he seemed completely oblivious to how I felt. Hot pot? Well, that sounds great. It's always better with a group, right? Wait a minute. It's our wedding anniversary. I've been planning this dinner for months. We can do the dinner another time. Mom's making hot pot tonight, and you know that it's one of her specialties. No matter how hard I tried to reason with him, Chris wouldn't budge. Reluctantly, I canceled our dinner reservation. I couldn't believe what was happening as I made my way to his parents' house. When I arrived, Mary, Chris's dad, and Samantha were already sitting in the living room chatting and relaxing. I expected to see the hot pot preparations underway, but the kitchen was completely untouched. I thought we were having hot pot. You haven't started preparing anything? Of course not. That's your job, Emily. Now, don't keep us waiting for too long. Shocked, I silently grabbed an apron and headed to the kitchen. I felt a pang in my chest as I thought about how I was spending my wedding anniversary preparing hot pot instead of celebrating. In the living room, Chris was happily chatting with his family, completely ignoring me. As I prepared the hot pot, I overheard Mary whispering behind me. It's hilarious, isn't it? She really thought she'd get to celebrate her anniversary. Exactly. She got all excited for nothing. Poor thing. Their words crushed me. They knew about my plans and had deliberately sabotaged them. Laughter echoed from the living room with Chris's voice joining in. My hands trembled as I held the knife, but I forced myself to stay calm and kept chopping vegetables. That night, I couldn't bring myself to meet Chris's eyes. The cheerful meal taking place in front of me felt like it belonged to a distant, separate world. As I silently served the hot pot, I made a quiet resolution in my heart. I can't live like this anymore. 4 years after that disastrous anniversary, Chris made a surprising suggestion. It's our 4th anniversary. How about taking a trip to celebrate? The thought of spending time alone with Chris thrilled me. Really? What brought this on? It's about time we had some alone time. Besides, we never had the chance to go on a real honeymoon. I began planning right away. Hot springs, sightseeing, flying for the first time in years. I even bought a new dress for the occasion. Can I get the window seat on the plane? I'll handle the seats. Leave it to me. Chris had loved airplanes ever since he was a kid, so I trusted he'd make the trip amazing. On the day of the trip, I arrived at the meeting spot only to find Mary and Samantha standing there. Chris, what's going on? Isn't this trip supposed to be just the two of us? Sam's plans got canceled, so I invited her. Wouldn't it be lonely if it's just the two of us? At that moment, I felt something inside me snap. What Chris said next was the final straw. By the way, we're flying first class, but you'll be seated in economy. Wait, what? I was so shocked I couldn't speak. This trip was supposed to be for our anniversary, a trip I had planned and organized, and yet Chris had casually decided to put himself in first class and leave me in economy. Beside him, Mary let out a cold laugh. Don't you dare spend my son's money on luxuries. You've got some nerve. Hurry up, we've been waiting forever. There wasn't a hint of gratitude from his family. All the patience I had held onto over the years finally reached its breaking point. I took a deep breath and quietly made up my mind. All right. I pretended to check in my luggage, but subtly turned and walked away. Once I saw Chris and his family head for the boarding gate, I walked in the opposite direction. I made my way to the counter and canceled my ticket. Then I took out my phone and sent Chris a message. I've upgraded your trip to make it extra special. Enjoy first class. All expenses have been billed on your account, so no need to worry. After I hit send, I spotted Chris and his family heading toward first class. I watched them for a moment before turning and leaving the airport. Sitting in the taxi on my way home, I began reflecting on everything. All the years I had spent being pushed around by his family. Even my anniversaries had been sacrificed, leaving me to spend them alone and disappointed. I had endured endless, unreasonable demands from Mary and Samantha, and every time I tried to talk to Chris, he brushed it off. I had clung to the idea of family and tried my best, but now it all seemed like a joke. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Chris's name lit up on the screen. I took a deep breath and answered calmly. Hey, where are you? What the hell do you think you're doing not getting on the plane? I planned the trip, but I decided I'm not going. What are you talking about? You can't just walk out on this. You're the one who turned this into a family trip. I thought it was supposed to be just the two of us. We're family, so what's the problem? It's more fun when everyone's together. Chris, this is our wedding anniversary. It was supposed to be a special day for the two of us. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? Hearing those words, I no longer had the energy to argue. I exhaled slowly and spoke in a cold, steady voice. If you're happy with your family trip, then that's fine. I won't be a part of it anymore. Emily, wait! Don't say that. Chris shouted something from the other end of the line, but I ended the call without hesitation. Years of pent-up frustration finally felt like they were lifting. Sitting on my couch, I reflected on how much I had sacrificed over the years. I had spent years fulfilling unreasonable demands from Mary and Samantha, dedicating my life to theirs. Chris never understood, dismissing everything with a simple, "That's just how families work." In the end, none of my efforts were ever appreciated. Living life for myself, it seemed like such a simple concept. I never knew how difficult it was to do just that. But I realized this because my mind was finally made up. I would walk away from Chris's family and forge a new path for myself. The moment I made that decision, the weight I had carried for years began to lift. While Chris's family enjoyed their trip, I packed up my belongings. Each item I packed represented my time in this house, and leaving it behind stirred a mix of emotions. But the idea of leaving and gaining my freedom felt far more appealing. I packed my things, left the house key, and placed the divorce papers I had prepared on the table. Then I quietly walked out the door. Afterward, I rented a small weekly apartment near my workplace to live in temporarily. I needed the distance to begin healing and to rediscover myself. But as soon as Chris's family returned from their trip, the calls and messages started flooding in. Hey, where are you? What's with these divorce papers? This is just a joke, right? I took a deep breath and willed myself to stay calm. Where I am isn't your concern. You should be grateful I didn't bring this up sooner. Why did you leave? Are you seriously this upset about not flying first class? Do you really think that all of this is because of some stupid flight? I had never felt so pained by Chris's inability to understand my feelings. Perhaps realizing he couldn't sway me alone, Mary and Samantha started bombarding me with messages too. Emily, what do you mean by divorce? How could you leave Chris like that? What are you thinking? Hey Emily, we're finding it really hard to get around without the car. Mom's doctor appointments are such a hassle now since we can't drive her. Their messages showed no sign of consideration or apology for what I had endured. They were simply trying to guilt me into solving their inconveniences. Then, as the travel expenses started rolling in, I received the inevitable angry call from Chris. What is the meaning of this? The entire cost of the trip has been charged to my account. You planned it, so you take responsibility. Why should I take responsibility? It's not my problem anymore. If you don't want to pay, maybe split the cost with your mom and Samantha. Of course, I don't want to pay. This is all on you. Chris's angry outburst no longer stirred any emotion in me. He had left all the planning and logistics to me, and now that I was gone, the trip must have been a disaster. It became painfully clear they had only ever seen me as a convenient tool, not as family. The calls from Mary and Samantha kept coming, but I ignored them all. Their messages remained self-centered, offering no apology or reflection. Please, come back. Without you, this household is falling apart. Everyone's struggling. Mom's appointments are such a pain now. Can't you do something about it? I can't keep accompanying her on the bus. Reading their pleading texts, I couldn't help but laugh internally. They still had no clue how much they had driven me to my breaking point. Eventually, the divorce was finalized and I was finally free. Chris resisted until the end, but apparently his father convinced him to let go. To my surprise, his father even gave me a modest sum of money as a gesture of apology. I'm deeply sorry for everything my family has put you through. Yet even after the divorce, Chris kept reaching out. Help me deal with Mom and Sam. Since you left, everything's a mess. No one irons my shirts or cleans my shoes anymore. When I read those messages, I could only shake my head in disbelief. After moving back in with his family, Chris was constantly clashing with them. He was probably starting to realize that the family bond he had always boasted about was nothing but an illusion. Mary continued calling me, her voice desperate and pleading. Please come back. Help us fix this family. I kept my responses calm, though I could hear a nurse's voice in the background. Please calm down. You're disturbing the other patients. I realized Mary and her family were causing a scene at the hospital, disturbing the other patients, but all I could do was shake my head in disbelief. Chris's family was desperately trying to hold on to the facade of being a close-knit family, but it was crumbling beyond repair. Amidst all this, I received a message from Ryan, Samantha's former fiancé. Emily, rest assured, I've completely cut ties with that family. Please focus on living your life for yourself. Ryan's firm words gave me the courage to finally close this chapter of my life. The protective tone in his words brought tears to my eyes, releasing emotions I had been holding back for so long. With the divorce finalized, I was officially free. Without the helpful daughter-in-law, Mary and Samantha now bore the full weight of household chores and responsibilities. Unable to keep up appearances, they became the subject of neighborhood gossip, known as the family whose daughter-in-law ran away. Mary tried to spread rumors blaming me, but the neighbors knew the truth and stopped listening to her altogether. As for me, my life took a complete turn. I no longer had to cater to anyone and could finally use my time for myself. I could spend my weekends resting or indulging in hobbies and things I genuinely enjoyed. At work, I became more confident in asserting myself and achieved significant accomplishments. I decided it was time to start a new chapter in a new place. I resigned from the company I had worked for so long, ended my lease on the apartment, and decided to return to my hometown. Surrounded by beautiful landscapes, I set out on a journey to rediscover my happiness. Now that I was free from the chains of Chris's family, I finally felt what true freedom was like. This is the story of how I fought to reclaim myself, and now my new life begins.